Check out the secret Xbox hack. Is it time for World of Warcraft to come to consoles? And what's the next game series to get the Master Chief Collection treatment? Let's discuss. Real quick before we get into today's video, I am giving away an Xbox Series X to one lucky viewer. Check out the link for more info on how to enter. So one of the marquee additions to Game Pass in the month of January is Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Extraction. Everyone was super hyped that it was coming to Game Pass day one on January 20th. And before I go any further, let me just say I appreciate what Extraction was trying to bring to the first-person shooter genre. They were saying, okay, yes, I know you guys are used to shooters that, you just go in guns blazing and you can shoot your way out of every situation imaginable. We're gonna provide you with an experience that is a little bit more thoughtful. You gotta make your way through these maps in a more tactical fashion. You gotta have a little bit of strategy. You gotta communicate with your teammates in order to identify the objective and then figure out which is the best way to tackle it. And then once all that's done, you have to confer with your teammates to either move on to the next section or get airlifted out of there. When all was said and done, I just found myself pretty bored with the game. First of all, I personally think that I expected the game to be something completely different than what it was based on the trailers and stuff. I thought it was gonna be fighting off hordes of these alien monster things, or maybe you're defending from hordes of this. And there is a game mode that is basically that in Rainbow Six Extraction, where you're basically just fighting endless waves of aliens. But I also sort of expected it to be like Back 4 Blood, where you go through these different maps and each map has a specific mission, it has a specific story beats. That just wasn't the case. So if you're not familiar with the game, basically what it is that you take these operatives that you can play as in Rainbow Six Siege, the previous game, and you go through these maps and you complete just this handful of objectives. And that's it, right? The only thing that changes are the maps and the objectives stay the same. So you have rescue this person, that's the extraction. You have destroy aberrant nests. You have place these trackers on these nests for these monsters. You have eliminate these high priority targets, things like that. The objectives stay the same and they just cycle through the maps in different ways. And all the maps are sort of the same, I don't know. They all take place in very distinct different cities like New York, but everything just sort of starts to feel the same after you've played it for a little bit. When you go through the VR training, I don't know what it was about this. They just presented the gameplay and the information about the game in a very boring way. It felt like I was going through HR training or something, or like compliance training. I don't know how they packaged that in such a boring way. I was so bored by but you had to do it or else you would have been totally confused when you launched into the real quick play matches. So the meat of Rainbow Six is that you get dropped into these locations that are being taken over by this parasite, the Archeans, the Archies as they're called in the game, and you make your way completing these different objectives, and once you complete that objective, you have the option to either go to the next area, which will then increase in difficulty, or to get extracted out, airlifted out back to the menu, and you just collect your experience points and call it a day. But what I think is interesting is, as you go on to these different areas after you complete your objective, you don't regenerate health, and you don't regenerate ammo or your abilities. There's a limited supply of both of those resources, which you have to really gauge where you're at, like, oh, am I super low on health? Did we just barely make it through that area, that objective? Maybe I should go back rather than pushing on. I like that element, and if you die, then you die for real. No, I'm kidding. Your character is basically encased in what they call a stasis pod, where they remain in this kind of suspended animated state until you go and rescue them. If you lose an operative that you really like, that has a loadout and an ability that you really like, and you lose them out in the field, it kind of forces you to learn what these other characters have to offer, even if you don't necessarily respond to them initially. You might have to use them because your other favorite character is out missing in action in the field. And that leads into another interesting mechanic, which is the rescue missions, where you are trying to pull out this missing in action operative that is encased in the stasis foam from this tree, and all the while you're trying to pull it, it's sending these beams of energy to try to prevent you from doing so and to reabsorb that person. That was a really cool mechanic. I was interested in that, but everything else I was kind of, like I said, bored. It got pretty repetitive. For me, it just felt kind of soulless. I don't know, I just didn't get any of the, you know, when you consume a TV show or a video game, you can kind of feel some of the aspects of the team behind it, you know, the passion that they put into it and the thought that they put into it. This, I was kind of like, I didn't feel any of that, and especially with the monster designs, the Archaeans, the Parasites, I didn't have any sort of emotional response to when they first appeared, right? Which is a shame. When you think about the first time you saw the Flood in Halo and how crazy that experience was, how scared you were backing up and shooting them, panicking, whatever your first Halo game was, that is something that has stayed with me. Same thing with the Locust Horde in Gears of War. When you first saw the Locust Horde, you were like, holy crap, these guys are scary and they're coming right at me, what do I do? Or even on PlayStation side, like the first time you encounter a bloater in Last of Us, you're like, oh, what is that? What do I do? How do I fight it? There's no sort of emotional response to whatever these creatures are in Rainbow Six Extraction. They're just kind of the most generic looking monsters. Apparently they reused them from a free event that happened in the early days of Rainbow Six Siege. Overall, super uninspired and, like I said, a little bit soulless. If you're going to play this game, I highly recommend you bring along at least one friend. You have to play in teams of 3 whenever you deploy for all of these missions. And overall, I would say just try it out on Game Pass first. I would be a little bit upset if I had to buy it, but luckily I got to try it as part of my Game Pass subscription. I tried it out, I figured, hey, it wasn't for me, and that's it. They can't all be winners, right? So as we all know, Halo 1 through 5 and a couple of other games have all been consolidated into something called the Master Chief Collection. Now this is really awesome because it's a great way to preserve those older Halo titles, have them all in one place. You don't have to be switching in discs, and at this point, switching up the console that you're using to play these other games. And they've preserved the multiplayer side of these games. Unfortunately, Microsoft has shut down 360 servers for games like Halo 3, but they live on in the Master Chief Collection. Well, apparently, according to Special Nick, he has spoken to someone at Microsoft and they said that they're going to consolidate another iconic Xbox series, much like they have with the Master Chief Collection. Now, when the Master Chief Collection first dropped, it was Halo Combat Evolved 2, 3, and 4, and it preceded the release of Halo 5. It was basically a placeholder for people to entertain themselves while they waited for Halo 5. And later on, they added Halo Wars and Halo 3 ODST and Halo Reach and for future updates. Now, when we think about other Xbox franchises that are eligible for the Master Chief Collection treatment, the obvious answer seems to be the Gears of War franchise. And I personally think it would be super awesome to have all the Gears games in one place like the Master Chief Collection and get all sorts of upgrades to their resolutions and frame rate. And I think it would also be a great opportunity for PC players to get access to all of the Gears of War games. For those of you who don't know, the only Gears games that are playable on your PC are the first Gears of War 4, and Gears of War 5. And I believe Gears Tactics, I'm not sure, but they don't have Gears 2, Gears 3, and Gears Judgment on there either. Apparently the story goes when they did Gears of War Ultimate Edition way back when and they ported it over to PC, it didn't sell very well. So when Gears of War 2 came out and everyone was asking, hey, when is Gears of War 2 gonna come to PC? They were like, it did not sell well, so we're not even gonna go through the trouble. And I think that played a huge part in Gears of War 3 and Judgment's absence on PC. And if they release this anthology collection of Gears, who knows, maybe Gear 6 is not too far behind that. But anyway, it would be awesome to see Gears compiled in one anthology series that holds a very special place in my heart, especially the co-op campaigns of Gears 2 and 3. I played through both of those with my friend Robin, hours and hours and hours just fighting off locusts. And who could forget The first time you use a Lancer, man, that is just one of the best gaming kills in history. I don't care what anyone says. Other candidates for this anthology consolidation treatment would probably be the Fable series, Fable 1, 2, and 3. Not that other like mobile game, no, we can forget about that. But Fable 1, 2, and 3, they could all kind of jam together, and they're obviously Playground Games is working on a new Fable, which we know nothing about, so maybe they'll hold off on repackaging all of those first Fable games until they are a little bit further along in the new Fable game. I also think it's likely that they could repackage all the Elder Scrolls games. This is already something that exists on PC. They have Elder Scrolls Arena, Daggerfall, Morrowind, Oblivion, and Skyrim all in this one anthology series. And now that Microsoft owns ZeniMax, I can't imagine it would be that much of a stretch to bring that anthology to consoles. I think that'd be pretty cool. At the end of the day, although a Microsoft employee told Special Nick that there is going to be a new Master Chief Collection series-esque thing going on, they didn't say what series, so all we can do is speculate until then. So as I've said for the millionth time, Microsoft has acquired Activision and Blizzard, and this has some people wondering, is it finally time for World of Warcraft to be brought over to consoles? Now that statement is something that would have blown my mind when I was a kid. When WoW first came out, computers weren't what they are now, right? Nowadays you can play some MMOs on your phone. Most people had 1 or 2 computers in their house, and they were not gaming computers by any stretch of the imagination. There was one computer that your whole family would use, and I was expressly forbidden from downloading games onto the computer because I downloaded Diablo 2, and apparently it slowed down the computer to the point where my dad was like, you can't put any more games on this computer. So I couldn't play any of these cool PC games that were coming out back in the day, WoW included. All my friends were playing World of Warcraft and having so much fun, and I just couldn't do it. I also couldn't convince my parents to pay monthly for a game. The idea of paying a monthly subscription for one game, which is so crazy to my parents. They were like, what? We already bought you the game. Why do you have to keep paying? So if I could go back in time and tell my younger self, hey, there's a possibility that World of Warcraft is coming to your Xbox, that would just probably explode from like the implications of time travel and interacting with yourself. I don't know. That would obviously be crazy because World of Warcraft has never shown any inclination or interest in being ported over to consoles. And that's just how it's always been. Even as other MMOs have made the leap, like Elder Scrolls Online, Black Desert Online, Final Fantasy XIV. But now that Microsoft owns Blizzard, anything is possible, right? And I think it'd be really cool to put WoW on consoles, on Xbox, on Game Pass even. WoW fever would sweep again. People would lose their lives, stop talking to their families. They would I don't know, grow out their beard, neglect themselves because they're playing so many hours of WoW. Maybe, I'm not sure. But I will say, I don't know how it would work out playing with a controller on WoW. If you are not familiar with WoW or other MMOs, the abilities that you have, your hotbar and your rotation, there's like hundreds of them. Like a keyboard is absolutely necessary to play a game like WoW. I know some people have hacked it a little bit and remapped it to their Xbox controllers. Elder Scrolls Online actually did this very well, but there aren't nearly as many abilities that you can use in your rotation on Elder Scrolls Online than there are in WoW. But maybe if they put it on consoles, it would kind of revitalize the franchise a little bit. I know some people have been pretty disappointed with World of Warcraft in these past couple years, at least like in the past 4 or 5 years since the last expansion hit. So maybe it would kind of give the series a jolt it needs to kind of bring back some of its older players, bring in a crop of new players, who knows? Now this next hack, if you've been paying attention, it's been something that I've been talking about for a while now. I first mentioned it when it was being tested in the Alpha Skip Ahead Insider program, and when it was released back in November. It is an audio feature that people have been waiting for a very, very, very long time. So prior to this feature going live in November, what happened was if you connected your headphones to your controller or wirelessly to your console, the audio from your game and your apps would go into your headphones, right? But you would have to separately take your remote and turn the volume off on your TV as well, because there's really no point in having audio in your headphones and on the TV unless you're playing entertaining guests or something like that. I can't imagine a scenario why you would want that. And this feature allows you to mute your monitor or your TV automatically when you connect your headphones in. Like I said, small feature, but that's something that happened automatically on your PlayStation console. As far back as the beginning days of the PS4, that would happen. This is something that we've been waiting on for a while now. Small quality of life change. I don't know what took them so long to implement this, but they finally did it. And I thought it was worth mentioning because it's been testing for a while, and most people think, hey, that's just how it comes as default, right? Wrong. You have to go into your audio settings and enable this feature manually before it takes effect. But Ray, how do I enable this magical feature that you're talking about? Well, you go on over to your settings and you go over to the volume and audio tab and you'll be able to change it there. And there's also some other really cool audio stuff that you can mess around with too when it comes to your headset. There are 4 different settings for your headset output that Xbox offers. The stereo uncompressed, they have like a Windows sound thing, a Dolby sound thing, and one more, I can't remember off the top of my head, but they're all there to mess around with. And I think it's important to share this information with everyone because now I'm playing more multiplayer games than I was. I'm in party chat a lot more than I was previously. And the amount of times I'm in a lobby or I'm on a team where I can hear someone's game audio in their mic and have this weird sort of echo effect, Doppler effect going on, and that's just annoying. And I don't want to mute you because I want to communicate with you, maybe make a new friend, I don't know, but definitely communicate about the game in general. So if you haven't done it yet, go to your audio settings and make it happen. It's gonna change your life, I promise. Moral of the story, subscribe, because we've been talking about that secret audio feature for a while now, since it started testing on Xbox consoles. Either way, thanks so much for tuning in. I'd greatly appreciate it if you went on over to Twitter and followed me at StayXboxReady. I'm also doing my first giveaway. It is live, it is official, it is down in the description. There's a link with instructions on how to enter for your chance to win a Series X from me. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next video.